Who hates scary games? Me. Who's the worst choice for this list? Me. Do, re, mi. Fa, sol, la, ti, do. Me. Oh, hang on. We all get scared from time to time, even people who say they enjoy horror films and games. It's because they get a sick pleasure out of being frightened. I don't understand them. If there's anyone out there genuinely unfazed by horror though, seek medical attention. Horror games are a cornerstone of the video game industry, one that sadly hasn't received its fair share of love recently, and we're gonna rank some of them. A few. 10 to be specific. I'm Ben from What Culture, and here are the 10 scariest video games of all time. Woo, ghosts. Number 10. Condemned: Criminal Origins. As a crime scene investigator called Ethan Thomas, Condemned saw you searching for a serial killer in a grim city on the brink of madness, battling enemies with whatever weapons you could find. And in most cases, the tension and fear generated in Condemned stemmed from the fact that the game rarely allowed guns to be its main focus. Players were forced instead to use random objects found on the ground to take down their disturbed foes. The environment, brilliantly rendered, was a source of major panic as enemies would hide themselves away in secret, only to ambush you in the darkness of some abandoned service tunnel. They had mannequins too, and nope, just no. Number 9. Outlast. As one of the free PS Plus games when the PS4 launched, there's a good chance some of you may have tried this. I did for like a minute until you get to that bit with all the dead... Oh, awful. Partly inspired by the visual aesthetics in the film Jacob's Ladder, Outlast has you as Miles Upshur, a freelance journalist who wants to investigate a mental asylum and has only the ability to video stuff and run away. What a f***ing tool! Did we mention that the environment the game is set in is immersed mostly in darkness and that you have to view everything through a night vision camera? Yay! And said camera often runs out of batteries because the people who designed this game really want you to suffer. Outlast is also packed to the brim with lights turning off and unseen things running around in the darkness, and that is just the beginning. Number 8. Eternal Darkness: SANITY'S Requiem. Designed as a way of drawing more adult-orientated gamers to the GameCube, Nintendo published their first R-rated game, Eternal Darkness: SANITY'S Requiem, as a competitor to the likes of Silent Hill and Resident Evil. A psychological horror game in every capacity, Eternal Darkness offered a story set across 12 different time periods as players were forced to try and keep their sanity meter up before it was too late and they went totally and utterly bonkers. Eternal Darkness also happened to be brilliantly meta in that the game would often fake memory card errors or mess with the volume settings in order to trick the player into thinking they were really going crazy. Are you ready for a Switch revival? Number 7. F.E.A.R.T. F.E.A.R.T saw players join the First Encounter Assault Recon. No team on the end there, a bit of a clunky acronym really. Sent into action to stop a team of psychic soldiers who are causing havoc. Thankfully, your character possesses a fair few supernatural powers of his own, marking this out as a wholly original game that exists primarily to make you want to hide under your bed. Oh, actually, no, that's where the monsters are. The fear factor associated with fear stemmed from the character known as Alma, who, for all intents and purposes, took the form of a little girl. Why? You, that's why. Still, when she did appear, and she did so at very brief intervals, sometimes so briefly that you weren't even sure she had done, the game became really creepy. Number 6. Silent Hill. Silent Hill was all about the atmosphere. The sleepy, fog-infested town of the game's title isn't one quickly forgotten after all. So whereas the original Resident Evil seemed to thrive more or less on the gore factor, Silent Hill tried to get inside your head. Within the first half hour, you've already been led down an eerie alleyway and ambushed by mutant baby things who try to murder you no matter how hard you try to escape. They're not reasonable. Only then are you let loose on the abandoned nightmare that is Silent Hill. The game is without question downright weird. The hallucinations, the dialogue, the characters, all equally disturbing. Number 5. Dead Space. As a space-based engineer, your mission is to board a seemingly abandoned mining ship, which, guess what, turns out to be inhabited with an endless array of nightmarish creatures. Blow raspberry up. As a result, Dead Space emerged as one of the scariest games in ages, where the simple act of moving forwards, even a little bit, resulted in sweaty palms and laboured, heavy breathing. Those who have played it will know that Dead Space is an incredibly violent game, but the gore doesn't compromise the chilly atmosphere that clings to the action from start to finish. It actually enhances it. It's part Aliens, part The Thing, all Brown Pants City. R.I.P. Visceral. Number 4. Amnesia: The Dark Descent. A fine example of indie devs doing horror right here, Amnesia is really quite horrid. The plot, simple on the surface but incredibly dense and complex in actuality, concerns Daniel, a prisoner who awakens in a strange Prussian castle with, ta-da, amnesia. The crux is that something is hunting him down, and it's up to Daniel to assemble the clues and work out what's happening to him. Atmosphere is the most important aspect when it comes to crafting a scary game, and Amnesia absolutely nails its world, rendering a grim, stomach-churning environment and filling it with instances of pure psychological terror and super disturbing monsters. Number 3. Doom 3. When you open a portal to hell, bad things happen. Scary, horrific, terrible things, you fool. And so here's Doom 3, arguably the best and definitely the most frightening Doom game ever made. What makes it so scary then? It's all about the lighting in this one, or lack of in fact, because Doom 3 thrived on its willingness to plunge players into dark holes and recesses where it was left to their imaginations to conjure up what exactly might be skulking in the shadows around them. Of course, the game would almost always reveal the associated horrors in the end, but not at the price of the nail-biting tension achieved in the build-up. Also, you couldn't hold your weapon and your torch at the same time, you bastards. Number 2. Resident Evil. For many, Resident Evil presumably served as their first experience with a scary game, and the memories of such an encounter are unlikely to have faded. The series has found its feet again recently, but it all started here, with a team of stars finding themselves trapped in an old mansion and facing off against hordes of the undead. In spite of graphical innovations, the original Resident Evil is still the scariest. Who can forget, after all, that iconic moment towards the start of the game where, moving along a passageway lined with windows, players were attacked unexpectedly by a zombified dog as it shatters both glass and our nerves. All of us, women included, grew chest hair that day. Limited ammo and supplies also didn't help things. Number 1. Silent Hill 2. Yeah, 2 Silent Hill games on this list. Try me. Silent Hill 2 expands on the mythos and brilliance of the original, also very, very scary game, and works as a kind of remake, emphasizing what it means to be a survival horror game whilst throwing in a seemingly endless array of disturbing moments, set pieces, and monsters. The reason Silent Hill 2 tops our list, however, comes down to the way the game is structured. As an experience in horror gaming, it is near flawless and perfectly paced. The atmosphere is so totally weird and uncomfortable, it practically begs you to turn it off at every moment, but keeps you going because you just have to find out what happens next. Then there's the soundtrack, the set design, the puzzles, and last, but definitely not least, Pyramid Head, undoubtedly one of the most terrifying villains in all of video games. It all adds up to an experience like no other, and one that will stay with you for years and years afterwards, because Silent Hill 2 is a masterclass. And that's our list. Make sure you subscribe to the What Culture Gaming YouTube channel for more lists like this, and don't forget to visit whatculture.com for daily news and articles. I'm Ben from What Culture, and thanks for watching. Happy Halloween.